Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Artifact Podcast, episode 4. SUNSfan here with Conrad and Strim. God, that really bothers me still. I don't know
Oh yeah,
why.
that's just little trigger for you.
Just a small one. Before we get started, I just need to let everybody know for the podcast itself, you can find it on Spotify, iTunes, Google, which I have to say their service is horrible if you're using that. Good God. The VOD will also be on ArtifactCinema, our new YouTube channel. We're separating Dota Cinema now. Don't know why, but we're doing it. And I've actually never used any Apple product, guys. Conrad probably knows this. I've never used an Apple product in my life. This is not an exaggeration. I've banned it from the household, essentially. I had to install iTunes for this to be able to submit the podcast. And I've been told... I could have what?
Oh, you could have asked me. I would have been happy to. And I'm not really an Apple guy, but I have learned to enjoy.
Well, I've been told by people out there that it's important, apparently, to get reviews on iTunes. And you have to get a certain amount to be able to see them, which is weird. That's really, really weird. So review this podcast. Give it a 5. Is it a 5-star system? I don't even know.
I think so. You know what? I'm going to open it up right now. Let's take a little peek.
Give it 5 fresh apples. And give us
I definitely don't think it's
if you review us, we might even say something about it on the podcast. Swim, how's it going, buddy?
I'm good, man. Apologies if I'm like a little low energy today. I'm kind of on the tail end of effectively a 12-hour stream. I've been going for a while.
Oh, excellent.
Damn.
Excellent. Is that the swim stream by any chance?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct, sir.
Cool. Just making sure. What have you been up to other than that? Yes?
Just chilling, playing some gaunts, playing some artifacts, a little here, a little there. I think I'm actually kind of curious how this is going to go because SUNSfan hasn't given us an agenda yet. We actually have no idea what we're talking about.
This is the podcast, guys. Okay, this is the podcast. Conrad, we haven't seen you in a while. How's it going with you? Other than checking iTunes.
Yeah, I've been actually pretty busy past couple weeks. But it's nice to finally come back and get a couple games in. You know, I've been teaching somebody who happens to also work at Twitch the game. So it's been interesting. They are in the beta, so it's not
I was
like
going to say, you're...
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are in the beta. So.
That's good. That's good to hear. So I was thinking, and I know Swim, I didn't get to watch your podcast with the BTS guys, but I assume you guys went over a lot of this, but we're going to do it again.
Oh, God.
Whether you like it or not.
Okay, that's fine. It's fine. I've got it pre-scored.
This is, we're kind of separating this into 2 segments today. So we're going to talk about Gauntlet officially, since we haven't gotten to talk about it at all in our podcast because we didn't know we were allowed to talk about it, but we were given the okay. And then we'll just kind of go over the cards from since the last episode that we haven't seen yet. So Gauntlet, I feel like we need to kind of prep exactly what this is. We've talked about constructed. You guys, put together this is for the people not familiar with card games. That's when you can actually choose every card you want, put it together, make it as efficient as possible, and then go play other people with the exact same kind of decks. For the most part, through this beta, and us 3 have been in it for a very long time, actually. Conrad longer than anybody, I believe.
I think you're slightly longer than me. Yeah, or you stopped. I started playing probably, I think, before.
You guys are both a little longer than me.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, sir. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is the first couple months of the beta was mostly constructed only, actually. But then the past, I want to say 5 to 6 months has been almost exclusively Gauntlet for the most part. Like Swim and I occasionally will play constructed against each other, but for the most part, it's just been Gauntlet. So I guess we should just go over what it is first, and then we can kind of talk about our feelings towards it. So the Gauntlet can change, and we've seen a couple different variations. The one other one that we won't really talk about that much is called the Chaos Gauntlet, where you just get random cards. It's just like all random. I personally, we can talk about this for a second. Did you guys like that one? Because I did not like that one personally.
I loved it. I think
everybody else loved it.
Yeah, I think personally for me, it was one of the ones that allowed people to find out new cards that they would have never played. I think Constructed got very stale very quick for a lot of people. And by just getting a random card that you like never seen before, and you're like, damn, this card wasn't that bad. Or you made something like crazy happen with a card that you thought was complete garbage. I thought was like pretty fun. And it makes some of these like lower tier, lower rating cards that people have been talking about actually interesting. And you're just given the hand you're dealt, right? You got to do your best with it.
Yeah. I think it's fun. I mean, it's surprisingly skill testing. A lot of people like looked at that mode and basically said, oh, this is just full RNG. Whoever rolls the best deck is going to win. But, when we mess around with that format, we saw like top players being the ones that ended up performing very well and very reliably.
All right, this is the one thing I will say.
Still a lot of nuance.
I will say one thing, okay? I was one of the people saying that it doesn't take as much skill. Of course, I didn't know what I was talking about. But it is also the only tournament that I got top 8. And I hated every minute of it. It just felt like so much of it was like... I was talking to one of the Valve devs, and I understand the concept, and I understand why people can like it. I just prefer having more control. Like, the draft gauntlet for me is so much more fun, personally.
I do agree overall, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a nice kind of change of pace, and maybe that's something, you kind of do just to warm up a little bit, but I don't see it being like a competitive format, for instance, but I definitely, I think, enjoy having a couple of games of it every once in a while.
Okay, so that's the Chaos Gauntlet. Again, it's probably going to get changed a lot since we haven't seen it in a while, but the one we're going to be talking about today is the Draft Gauntlet, which I fucking love. So the best way to kind of explain this is you're given 5 packs of cards, let's call it, okay? In each one, you're guaranteed to get 1 hero. And if you've chosen a hero and another one comes up, you can't choose another hero. You're stuck with that hero for that pack. It's divided into 6 different stages for each pack. So the first screen, let's call it, let's say you're opening your first pack. The first screen will have 12 cards available to choose from. You can choose 2. You have to choose 2. The next one will have 10 cards to choose from. Again, you choose 2. It keeps going down. So 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2. That's a total of 42 cards for that pack, of which you pick 12. So in each pack, you're picking 12 cards. You end up with 60 total cards, which obviously that's a surplus. And that's when you start narrowing down exactly what you want. You can build your deck. You can supplement some basic heroes in there, basic items and whatnot, and actually try to make a deck out of it. So let's talk about this gauntlet a bit. What do you guys think about this one?
I think I really like the way it's built. Some people are saying like there's minor tweaks that, might make it a little bit better. And, Valve is saying they're still maybe like tweaking the algorithm in the process, but it feels very good. It feels a lot better than something like, for example, Hearthstone's arena mode, which is a common comparison. It feels like you have more control over your options. The ability to cut cards at the end is really important, which is something that Hearthstone's arena mode doesn't have, but that Artifact and Magic both use in their draft formats, right? Like if you get forced into picking a bad card, you don't include it in your deck.
Yeah, and I think like once people actually start drafting against each other, it could create a much more cohesive format. You're actually seeing these cards, and it doesn't feel as random. I think that's my current kind of gripe with it. Is it these cards are these cards, and that's kind of just how it goes.
So the best way to explain how it's supposed to work, like right now, obviously it's simulated, but in the future it would actually be other people opening packs with you, right? So if you're opening like the first stage of a pack, you send it over to another guy that's getting the second stage, right? So it's actually other people taking cards away from this pool of cards that you have to choose from. Which at first, like the first month maybe, we would see plenty of really good cards deep into the pack, which was kind of weird. That's where I thought it was kind of random, but they've since kind of rectified that by basing it off of what we've actually been picking. So you're seeing a lot of garbage cards later in the packs, which is how it's supposed to be. One interesting thing they did bring up, though, is the fact that obviously, like when you open up a pack, on the very first screen, you will get a hero if you want it. Every single time, you'll guarantee to get one of those heroes. If it's if it's not a hero you really want and you pass up, the heroes will likely get worse and worse because other people are passing them up. But the later you get into the packs, like let's say you're at pack 4 or 5, those heroes might actually get better if you wait. It's a risk-reward situation. And the reason for that is because, let's say you have an all black-red pool of heroes right now in your deck, and it comes up with a really good blue hero like a Luna, for example, you're gonna probably pass that up because it just doesn't fit in your deck. But somebody else might be able to pick it up. So it's kind of this interesting risk reward situation.
Yeah,
Which
I
I
think so
like.
as well. And there's one last thing that's kind of important about how draft works, and that is when you get to the end after you have all your picks, you're able to fill your slots with basic cards, which basically rectify, helping fill your item deck with some of the basic items, but more importantly, the basic heroes. There's one of each color, which are Keith, Riley, or Debbie, Farvan, and Jamoy, and these basically allow you, even if you kind of get screwed into not having the heroes for the colors you want, you can slot in the basic heroes.
And I think the one thing that I've noticed is having a tricolor deck isn't that bad in draft compared to
I think it's fine.
Constructed is pretty bad. Let's be real, it's pretty bad. But in,
Yeah, some people seem to like it, but I haven't seen what I would call a successful high tier tricolor deck. I feel
for
Really?
constructed or draft.
I think they're pretty common in drafts.
no in constructed. I mean,
Oh, I see.
I see all the success of tricolor being in the draft format and the gauntlet, and I mean you're typically seeing a lot of people draft really strong heroes, and then putting that kind of as a one-off, especially if you're looking at more black and red things that can kind of destroy and kind of take over the lane a little bit better, and maybe you're just utilizing it as like kind of a strong creep almost.
Yeah, and there's a really a bit of a major debate whether like it's fine to go for 3 colors or not, because there's a lot of very good draft players, and some of them really don't go for 3 colors very often, like something like 10% of the time, maybe even less, and some of them actually end up going for 3 colors very often, like up to 50% of the time.
I can't tell you when I go up. I have yet to beat Stan Sifka, man. I played him the other, like usually his deck is better as well. So I'm like, he's just got lucky, right? It's always this little thing in my head. But yesterday I was playing him and I swear to you, his deck was so fucking bad. Like I'm like, cause you can look at his deck. Like, this is one of the worst decks I've ever seen. And he still somehow beats me. And it's very demoralizing for somebody that good.
I mean, I think it's a testament to the game as well, though, right?
That's
like,
true. Yeah.
People can just outplay you, even with the RNG elements, even with people are good at this game already, and it's kind of cool. Like, I think there's going to be people who catch up really quick and able to discover a lot of these kind of small nuances. Also, fun fact, I don't know if I can confirm, but I am the only person that's ever beaten SUNSfan in a tournament.
Oh, I think he
in a
hasn't
constructed
played in the past
tournament,
couple, right?
In a constructed tournament.
Did he play in the last tournament?
I don't.
The last constructed tournament was a while ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
A long time ago.
He played in that one, yeah.
It was a VO1 too. It was very different.
Man.
But I didn't win. I didn't lose. I'll just say that.
I'm surprised there's not a plaque right behind. That's a perfect place for a plaque.
Dude,
celebrating that moment.
I'm working on the art. Don't worry. I'm actually just maybe about to move, so we'll see.
Oh my. So one thing we should note about a cool little thing about draft, other than the basic heroes, which you can have multiples of, you can have multiples of quote unquote good heroes as well. I don't know if we want to actually talk about which ones are really OP, but there's a couple that are disgusting, like to the point of I feel like I just want to concede when I see that. How do you guys feel about the duplicate heroes aspect?
Dude, you just gotta get good. The Dota mentality. You don't want to. You don't want to let these people hold you down.
I will say one thing: I have never conceded in Artifact.
Not even if you had to go or something.
Why would I need to go?
I think you've conceded against you before.
Nope.
I want to say you have. I'm gonna hit up the devs and just be like,
when you're literally one click away from finishing the game and they concede, I get kind of pissed. Actually, not gonna lie.
I think
card
that's
game players, man.
Like I told you, I think that's a Dota problem, right? I was like, the people coming from Dota, we're just like, screw efficiency. I'm playing to win every single moment of this game.
I think it's fine to talk about which heroes we're talking about. A lot of people in chat, anyone who's kind of paying attention to the community already knows, because a lot of people have said double Luna and double Drow are kind of the big ones. Now Drow hasn't been fully revealed yet, but the interaction right now with double Luna is all of the Lucent Beams buff up all of the eclipses, right? So you're getting a really ridiculous value compared to one Luna. In answer to your question, though, SUNSfan, I think it's kind of fine, because it's pretty rare that you see something like a double Luna. And honestly, I think that if you're a very good gauntlet player, I'm not even sure that it's proper to pick Luna if you see it first in a pack, depending on what other hero options you have. Like Luna may not be like the ultimate auto pick,
All right,
just because it's a little high rolly.
All right. I
Yeah,
will agree to some extent. And again, we can't talk about Drow in full length. But Drow is a hero you can have 5 of, and I'm pretty sure you're going to win every game. I think she is disgusting.
SUNSfan
That
gets
means you have 15.
really
Dude,
triggered by
I get so
Don't
triggered by
finish
this.
that sentence, Conrad. Don't finish that sentence. They don't know what Drow does
You can
yet.
do it, dude. You can do it. You gotta believe.
Drow
No, I
is
mean,
good.
I will admit, like, I've played against a double Luna before, and it is a little bit of a demoralizing experience, but it also does a really good job of making me not feel too bad because I'm like, well, could have had a better.
Exactly.
And then when you do beat it, which I have as well, ooh,
All right, I won't lie.
nothing feels
I
better.
won't lie. I had a real shit deck, but I did have double Luna. I only won 3 out of my 5 games, so
Yeah.
I felt pretty bad about myself. I won't lie. But
Yeah,
every
no,
other time I've gotten double Luna, I've gone 5-0, 100%.
There's some
pretty easy.
cards that do really well with the double, just because also, especially with double Luna, you get 6 of the signature card, so it means you're more likely to draw it.
And
Eclipse is
you're
great.
doubling your charges. Yeah, it's pretty insane. And then I think I've
But
gotten
there's
double
just
Drow
no-
once.
there's-
I mean, I feel like I can't lose. I can't lose.
I
with
just
that
feel like
hero.
there's not that many interactions. Like, this is not your typical day-to-day artifact interaction, and you shouldn't be basing your whole experience off this one gauntlet game that you end up playing, right?
Yep, that's definitely true. But overall, I have really loved the draft process of the gauntlet. Like my experience in terms of limited would be Arena, I guess, and Hearthstone, and I kind of liked it. Like it's kind of cool, but this one just feels much more interactive, much more like I have more input onto the deck itself because it still feels a little bit constructed, right? Because you can edit stuff after the fact, and fill in what you need. So I personally really like this gauntlet.
No, you have a crazy amount of decision making compared to Hearthstone's Arena. Like just absolutely ridiculous. The amount of choices and decision making you have both on the draft and then on the deck building process is just much higher. I think what I kind of like most about it is I think there's kind of 2 kinds of draft players, like ones that will go for like high roll opportunities and ones that won't. Like, maybe you're halfway through a pack. You see like a playable but kind of mediocre hero that fits your strategy. Do you pick it or do you literally just keep going? Yeah?
I think that's the
depends.
interesting part. I really like your point there, Swim, where there's a lot of players that feel like they're playing boom or bust, right?
Exactly.
Trying to go for that perfect run, trying to be get all the games completed, and then there's the other players like, I'm gonna play this safe, and you get a solid certain amount of wins, and you feel pretty good about yourself, and a loss is a loss, and maybe you lose against some of these high rollers, and that's just part of your strategy. It really depends on how you want to end up playing the format too.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, what was I going to say? In terms of the actual draft gauntlet versus chaos, do you guys prefer that as well? I know we kind of went over it earlier, but would you?
I prefer draft for sure.
Oh, draft 100%.
Okay,
I
so
mean,
we
like I
all-
said, I think chaos is like a good warm-up game type thing.
Right.
I hope it's a mode that's available to me at some point. But like, is it my day-to-day go-to when I want to play Artifact? Absolutely not.
Okay, and in terms of strategy for actually drafting in the gauntlet, and Swim, you probably have more experience than any of us with this, but would you say taking the highest quality card regardless of color is like for the first couple packs or pack and a half even, and then you start narrowing down to actual color? Or when you pick that first hero in that first pack in that first screen, how important is it to start getting that color started in terms of quality cards?
I would say that you do want to kind of like you said, for the first pack or so, open with the highest quality hero and main deck cards. If you see something like a tier 1 hero, you scoop it, especially if there's a main deck card that's playable. But by main deck card, I just mean main deck in card games is like main deck and sideboard. In this game, I just mean like the 25 cards that you fill your spell and creep deck with. I do think very much that you need to diversify your color options, and a lot of players will get screwed over by not doing that enough. Like if they see, for example, in the first pack, if you see something like 5 red cards and then you keep picking like these mediocre red cards, sometimes it's better to just pick good cards of every color so that you can keep your options open.
All right. One last thing I'd like to close with on this segment. So I revealed Centaur, and I admitted that I hadn't played as much of him as I'd wanted because I just couldn't justify putting him in ahead of like Axe or Legion, right? Mm-hmm. So I started thinking to myself, okay, I want to start playing this hero. So I started occasionally getting him in Gauntlet, and I got a double Centaur once. It was horrible. It was really bad. I think I won, and I think I averaged like 3 to 4 wins. I got so many 4-1s in Gauntlet. It's disgusting. Do you think Centaur is better in constructed? Because that's my theory right now.
I think so for sure. I mean, the way draft works is it's going to incentivize a fairly even distribution of colors just because of how the algorithm works and like the good cards able to be found by each color. Centaur, rule of thumb as a card, he's good if you're against red and he's bad if you're not against red. Like that's that card in a nutshell. And you're just not going to be as much against red in something like draft and constructed.
I was about to say it's a very meta dependent card. I think, you know, red is very popular in constructed.
Yeah,
you play it there, it gets really strong for you, you know, and it opens up just a lot more options. And I 100% agree with Swim. I think constructed way more so than Gauntlet.
Okay. All right. So with that is the end of the Gauntlet segment, my friends. So the second segment for the day is going over cards from the last week, which Swim has done like 3 or 4 times, I think, so repeatedly. So you can just
podcast his own videos, you know, all good.
I've got all the scores memorized.
Good. So you can just recycle that information. That's great. So, oh God, what have I done? All right, we're gonna have no webcams. I forgot to set this part up.
Oh,
you can watch the screen right now. Okay, there we go.
I mean, you can fix it up.
It's too late.
My God!
I completely forgot to do that. It's fine for people for listening to the podcast. You don't see our faces anyway, so there's no big deal.
Nice, I can get comfy.
Yes, get comfy, buddy. Pollux, a 3/5 blue hero with the Bringer of the Faithful reactive ability. Summon a melee creep into Pollux's lane each deployment phase. So, you know, Kana, you force all the random ones into your lane. This one, you create a new one if you can survive. And then her 5 mana improvement is called Barracks, which will summon a melee creep into this lane each deployment phase. So just creep summoning, creep summoning, creep summoning. What are your guys' thoughts on this guy, this woman?
What do you think, Conrad?
I think she's all right. I don't think she's like a must play in constructed, but you know, I think there's some really unique decks that you can build around her and kind of I think have a little bit of fun. Her kind of stats are a little poor, and that ends up kind of making me not want to use her that often. But you know, I like kind of what she brings, and if you're able to keep her out like alive, and that's the most important thing with this hero. She's fun. I've built a few decks around her, and I've had a lot of fun working with it.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I started like when I was doing star reviews, I started like with a 1-star system, and I realized that was horribly flawed because I think Pollux is a really good example of this. Some cards are just designed for one mode and kind of not for the other. In my mind, Pollux is a solid draft card and just not really made for constructed. And there's a bunch of reasons for this. It's kind of slow. I mean, draft is a mode that, because less powerful cards exist, incentivize like slightly longer games. Games last like 2 or 3 turns on average. In that environment, Barracks is much better. There's less just targeted removal for her, so she can actually stay alive. And I mean, you expect a little bit less out of the value of your cards. I honestly am not unhappy to see this in draft.
I've noticed the last couple months, the first few months of draft, I almost never saw this hero. The last couple months, I've been seeing her way more, and it's been pretty effective because just going wide in general is really difficult. This is why green is so insane in Gauntlet, in the draft Gauntlet, because you can't always plan ahead of getting across these wide lanes, and especially if you're picking red, which a lot of people like to do in Gauntlet as well. I mean, red's probably the most popular color in both modes, I would say. At least for the beginner stage, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a natural progression of meta, like based on from the beginning of this beta to the end of this beta. It will evolve, and I think at the beginning of this game's release to the end of it, or you know, the end of the first set at least, I'm sure we'll see red be very popular, at least initially, and then people will start looking at other colors, you know. I'm hoping that, you know, because of some of the pre-information, that people are going to look at other colors more readily, but that's like why I liked Chaos Gauntlet. Chaos Gauntlet taught me that there is more than just red, green, or red, black.
Chaos Gauntlet forced you to play Meepo, right? Just
I actually just
absolutely
built a
forced
Meepo
you.
deck today, and I'm pretty.
You're happy with it?
I think Meepo's not bad.
It's not
So,
great.
I mean,
But it's not bad.
I gotta say, and no, this is actually important. I think that as you play the game more, and this is something that I kind of went through, like the more you play the game, the more you realize that like cards that are bad in one mode are kind of intentionally that way so that they're good in the other mode, right?
Absolutely.
Like, and this is a byproduct of good design, and I think you see it in the colors as well. You were mentioning red is like probably strong in both modes, and that's true. I do think at a high level, blue is the strongest constructed color, but I think it's also the weakest draft color because you play for less synergy. Meepo is a card that is just not constructed playable, like in terms of competitive level at all. But in draft, he's a lot harder to kill, and Poof is an insanely valuable active.
Okay, I don't want to get stuck on Meepo for too long, but I'm gonna say
just an example. Just an example.
I'm gonna say the mode that he is almost playable, still not playable, is Chaos Gauntlet, where everything is random, because then you have no idea what cards you even start with. You have no idea what's going on. Everybody's just going in nice and fresh. Those are the only games I've seen Meepo win.
You got 3 signature cards, dude. You got 3 more Meepos ready to roll.
That's true. That's true. And when you're playing against another Meepo, one of you is going to win. So that boosts the win percentage of that hero anyway, right? So we're good. All right, moving on. Sucker Punch, a 4 mana red spell, stun a hero blocking an allied red hero, and deal 2 damage to that unit. So a lot of this based on positioning. I think we're going to see Beastmaster as well. There's a bunch of red heroes where positioning is extremely important, and it's not exactly the strongest suit for the color. I mean, it's not the worst, I guess, but what do you guys think of this card?
It's a little situational. It actually looks good on the surface. Stunning is like the strongest effect in the game because it's both a silence and a disarm, which is crazy. But the fact of the matter is, you're going to need to be running through red heroes to make this reliable enough. And even then, it's going to be just like a high roll depending on the situation. Like they need to be spawning across from you. You need to have initiative. You need to, be blocking a move that they wanted to play. It's just hard to get perfect value out of this card.
I'm not the biggest fan, to be honest. Extremely situational, and I don't know. I don't even think I'd put it in either format into one of my decks. It was something I experimented with early on and just didn't see a lot of success. So I'm like, I'm not that happy with it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. It's kind of meh. I mean, it can be really good, obviously, in certain situations. 4 mana. Okay, yeah. This one's an interesting one. 4 mana, green improvement, Altar of the Mad Moon. Allied melee creeps have +2 regen. I find this actually, the first time I saw this, like, this is one of the worst cards I've ever seen. Honestly, that's my first reaction. I think in draft, this is disgusting.
Yeah,
disgusting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just having 2 regen, being able to make sure if your creeps are against other creeps, melee creeps specifically, they won't take any damage. That's awesome, especially in a format where Swim was saying, things are a little bit slower. You don't have as much removal. It really sets you up for going a lot wider.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that you really have to think about with Artifact that you don't have to think about with Magic or Hearthstone or other card games is this idea of evaluating cards based on like creep warfare. Like the melee creep is a 2/4 unit. Anything that basically has numbers that reflect that in a positive way. Like, for example, 2 armor, 4 attack. The numbers that are able to do well in a creep-dominated game are very good. This gives your guys +2 regen, and it just infinitely tanks melee creeps. They can never die.
I think we can start bringing in some Dota terms like creepulibrium, for example. Right?
I'm good.
I think the
equilibrium means that all creeps are equal in each lane.
I know, but we can edit it for Artifact in some way that makes sense. I will say,
SUNSfan, I played Dota for 5 years, and I've never said that word,
bro. That's a very common term for us us analysts.
Common?
It's pretty common.
I mean, I've heard it. Definitely, I've heard it. Don't get me wrong.
I'd say it's pretty common. I mean, it's not like this.
They just call it
throw in all the time,
though. They don't call it creepulibrium.
It's one of those things that's evolved. Creepulibrium. Okay, it's combined. It's the American way to combine 2 words. Just make it easier for everybody to understand. The one thing I will say is improvements in draft they feel so much stronger than in constructed. Not that they're not good in constructed, depending on which heroes you're playing, but it's so difficult to get rid of improvements because you need. I think there's an item we can't even talk about. There's stuff that's obviously you're able to get rid of improvements very easily to condemn them in some way, and sometimes you just don't draft them. So it's difficult. Mr. Okay, I want you to pronounce this one, Swim, when it comes up on your screen.
Oh.
If you have the stream open.
Abaddon.
Okay.
I can pronounce it right.
That's actually
the real test is how do you pronounce his spell?
Aphotic Shield.
Yeah.
All right, so
That's
Abaddon is actually not the correct way to say, even though I do say it as well. It's Abaddon. I refuse. It's not happening ever.
It's
so Abaddon. Yeah,
It's Abaddon.
It's terrible. It
You
sounds
got baited, sir.
It sounds real bad. Anyway, Abaddon is a 4/9 green hero with borrowed time as an active ability. Has a 2-round cooldown. You fully heal yourself and become damage immune for the round. And it comes with a 2-mana spell called Aphotic Shield. Purge enemy effects from a unit. Give that unit +2 armor and to retaliate this round. Thoughts on this bad boy?
You remember how I said cards are either good in constructed or good in draft?
Yes.
This is an exception. It's okay in draft. Don't get me wrong. It's not bad. I don't know
think
what
it's good and constructed either, or is that
it's
like
not-
a double bad?
So to be clear, there is a place for units that have the ability to stay alive a long time. It can be good in like a single green splash, because when you're splashing a single color, you want two things. You want cross lane cards like improvements, and you want the ability to stay alive on that hero. Abaddon has the latter, but just splash drow. Just do drow instead.
Well, of course,
you
if
have
you
the
have the
choice, man. You don't
choice.
get the choice. You just get what you
I mean,
get.
if it was up to me, I'd run an all drow lineup all the time, you know? Good
Yeah.
Lord.
I mean, I think this card it's one of those, once again, maybe I'd like to see it in a draft format, but like I'm not particularly enticed. In constructed though, I think it has a place, but it's also once again meta dependent. The ability to purge the enemy effects can be very, very valuable. And it's I almost feel like Aphotic Shield is almost like a bait card because it's 2 mana. It's so easy just to drop down, keep your dude alive. But really, I think the most important part of it is to be able to purge enemy effects. There's some really strong enemy effects in this game, even like such as Swim mentioned, like stun. It's really powerful. And if you have another green hero in this lane and you're able to drop this on, it feels great. And then being able to stay alive, especially if you start putting some really nice items on Abaddon.
He's hard to kill.
Not bad.
I'll give him that.
He's good.
So
good.
I did test out the purge effect because I've been making some tutorial videos and stuff like that for when we're allowed to release stuff. And as it says on the card, enemy effects, right? So if an enemy casts a buff or a debuff on anything, you can purge it. But you cannot purge positive effects or negative effects that you apply. Not that, I mean, I can't even think of any scenarios right now, but I'm sure there's some fringe cases where you might want to do that. But you cannot do that. It only works on whatever the enemy has cast. So that's an important distinction. Okay, moving on. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say with Abaddon, one thing kind of holding him back a little bit. Aphotic Shield is not a bad card, and there's a few heroes that do this where they have signature cards that you don't necessarily want to run as a 3-of. Aphotic Shield might be solid as like a 1 or a 2-of, but 3-of is a little bit too much for that kind of situational card.
I'd love it if it wasn't a signature card. Yeah, it would be like I mean, even if it had like a slight little bit more balancing around it, I'd love to see something like being able to put into my.
Yep, I could see that. 4 mana blue improvement called Aghanim's Sanctum. Has an active ability that will restore your mana every single round, including the round you play this. Quite good, I would say. Quite good.
Yeah, this is a very, very good card. One of the best blue cards that you have access to. Pretty much of a constructed staple.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few blue decks I can think of with this as developed in it, and it's really solid. I mean, it gives you a lot more options for blue, and that's really important.
And in Gauntlet, if you're using blue, I'm pretty sure you just pick this up every time, right? I feel like this is not a card you turn down very often. If you're running blue, but blue's not as common.
It's definitely more of a constructed card than a draft card, for sure. But even then, I think I've been seeing reactions to this card. So first of all, I should mention you can use this effect immediately, right? So as soon as you play this on the same lane, you refresh your mana immediately. So it's basically a 0 mana card, which is insane unless they remove your improvement before you can do that. But what I will say about this card is I think some people in the community are overrating it a little bit. This is a very good constructed card, but it's not 3 of auto include. I think it's maybe more commonly a 2 of.
I could agree with that 100%.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's hard to judge these when you haven't played because you have to take things out of your deck to fit them, right? To fit everything into one cohesive kind of collection of cards because you can only put a certain amount in. Well, that's not true. You can technically put as many as you want, but you don't want to, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no Slacks deck building.
Oh, God, don't get me started. 4 mana, Black Creep, Ravenous Mass, has a 1/1 stat line and an active ability that you can use every round. Condemn Ravenous Mass's allied neighbors. Modify Ravenous Mass with their attack and health. I've thought of some interesting strategies, as I'm sure you guys have as well. None of them really work. The one that I was thinking mostly was putting... Ooh, is this item revealed? Putting an item on Rick's... Oh, shit. Is this item revealed? Can I type this to you, guys?
Yeah. It's revealed. Techie Vest.
No, not that one. Because that one's pretty obvious.
That's the meme. That's the meme.
I just typed it to you. Is that one revealed? Do you know?
I don't believe
I don't
it
think
is.
so.
Okay, there's an item that I think is good on Rick's that is not revealed yet that I would put on. If you don't care about him dying as much, let's just say that. And you just eat Rick's every round. You just eat him over and over. He's a worthless hero. This is more valuable than Rick's. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this card. First of all, I just want to say it has some of the best card art. This is one of my favorite card arts of the game. It's so weird and funky, and every time I look at the Ravenous Mass, I see something different. You know, this card is.
That's true. The art is amazing. That is true.
But this card is not. I feel is not usable in any situation.
I think this is one of the. Everyone's gonna try this out. It's gonna just be terrible, right? But I think in the future, this could be amazing. Maybe it's possible.
There's some big brain plays you can do with it. Be like, all right, don't have a way to get my hero out of this lane. Time to eat.
Yes.
And I've definitely tried that a few times. First of all, I mean, you know this more than anybody else, SUNSfan. We love our aggro decks. We love our aggro decks.
Swim does too now. I've converted them.
Oh, we're all in. And it's just like I look at it and it's just I've seen everybody try to make this one work and it just doesn't hit the.
Eventually it'll be good. I'm calling it now.
It needs some more combo pieces. I think one thing holding this card back a little bit, even when those pieces exist, is it's not a deploy. So it doesn't need to survive for one action. Like you can play this, and if the opponent has anything that deals any damage, your combo piece is out of here.
True.
Yep.
Very true. All right, next one we got. Oh, we got a four cards in a row that are kind of the same. They're all the path cards. So Path of the Cunning. This is the black 3 mana improvement. After you play a black card, modify a random ally with 1 siege. Then we have the blue version, which is Path of the Wise. After you play a blue card, deal 1 piercing damage to a random enemy. Then we have the green, which I think we can all agree is probably the best of the 4. Path of the Dreamer. After you play a green card, give your tower 3 regen until the end of the round. And then Path of the Bold is the red. After you play a red card, modify a random ally with 1 attack. I'm not huge on any of these personally. Maybe Path of the Dreamer in draft or something. I don't know.
I think Path of the Dreamer is pretty close to constructed playable.
Really?
Actually.
I think
Path of the Dreamer is good.
Okay.
Path of the Dreamer is really good, actually. I've built a couple decks around it personally, and I've really, really enjoyed some of the interactions you can have with it. You know, just especially in especially if you're playing mono, like you get a lot of regen, like a lot. And if they can't hit your tower, or if they're only doing like minor bits of damage, I mean, this can keep you alive for a long time.
One thing to point out about this card, like Hearthstone and Magic veterans might think this card is bad because the thing that those games often teach you is that health is not something you should like spend cards to entirely just give you back, right? But in artifacts, because it's kind of like a base race, when you can heal the tower that they're attacking, it buys you more time to win the game in the tower that you're attacking. In artifacts, being able to heal your tower efficiently is actually pretty valuable.
100% agreed. And I think there was a card revealed today that talks about that. Yeah, we'll talk about it later, I'm sure.
The minion or the creep?
The creep, yes.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I think that's the last one, actually.
Yeah,
do you guys like
one
any of
released
these
today.
other paths, by the way? I think the blue one can be okay. The other two, I think Path of the Cunning is by far the worst. By not even close. Like, this is as dumpster tier of a card as you can get.
I feel these cards are very flavorful.
Thematic.
They feel like they feel like their color that they're representing, and that's cool to me. I kind of like the banner idea, but yeah, I think for me, Cunning is the only one that I would, or sorry, Dreamer is the only one that I'd be probably focusing on.
Yeah, pretty much exactly that. The blue one is kind of okay in draft, I guess.
It's hurt. It's really
good with
fun to
Zeus.
have. It's fun in joke decks.
Yeah.
I feel.
It's fun with Zeus, all that good stuff. All right, 3 mana, red creep, Hellbear Crippler is a 3/3. When it deals battle damage to a unit, modify that unit with -1 attack. So battle damage, it needs to actually do damage. If you have something with 3 armor, it won't actually affect that unit at all, which is an interesting little mechanic. This card's kind of weird though, right? Because it'll end up trading over 2 turns with a melee creep.
Yeah,
I feel like it's there to block heroes and modify them with -1 damage, which is
this card.
it's okay.
I think this card is an amazing example of what I was saying before, which is like evaluating cards based on how they trade into melee creeps. It's just like you said. I mean, you can compare this to Bronze Legionnaire. Bronze Legionnaire is perfect for beating a melee creep because it's 4 attack, 2 armor, and 2 health. It will trade infinitely into them. This, just as you said, it's honestly not a bad card, but 3 attack is just under the melee creeps for health. And even though it modifies it with -1 attack, it'll still die in 2 turns to it, which is just like much more unfortunate by comparison. Still a solid draft pick.
And it's 1 mana more than Bronze Legionnaire. That card, is, if you think about it, that is the craziest creep, probably, value-wise, right? That is insane. All right, moving on. The Seraphim Shield is an armor item, 13 gold. Equipped hero has 2 armor, and all units, including your own, have -2 attack. So for me, this is an item I mean, maybe you can fit it into some really meme-type decks, but this is one of those things that pops up in the secret shop and you're like, oh, this could be useful. But you never actually include it in a deck. At least I've never seen it. What do you guys think?
I had a one-off in one of my decks once when comboing stuff was popular. But like, yeah, it's something I'll see in the secret shop, and maybe it's game dependent. It's a really, really good staller. You know, we're talking about, I feel like everything ends up coming back to melee creeps almost, but like melee creeps now do 0 damage. That could be really useful or really harmful depending on how you look at the situation.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that this is actually a fairly powerful card, but it loses out the trade really hard to Vesture, which only costs 6 gold more and doesn't have like the symmetrical drawback of this effect.
Yeah, do you think it maybe is too expensive for what it should be, since it is the mirrored effect?
A little bit, although this effect scales really well, so cheapening it is potentially a little scary. I mean, I think this is maybe fine as it is.
Yeah, I don't, you know, there's like always great items, and once again, a lot of things in this game are very situational. Yeah, maybe I'd like to see it a little cheaper. I'd like to see it more. I don't see it at all, I feel, these days.
Yeah.
Outside of like, one-offs and random
I feel
secret
like
shop.
half the items in the game I would never even think about putting in a deck, but they can be game winning in secret shop scenarios, which is actually really interesting. You know, so many of these are just so situational.
I mean, secret shop is the gauntlet of your shop phase. You know, like you see it and you go, I will utilize this for its maximum potential.
It's
right
the chaos gauntlet of your shop phase.
Now,
Yeah, that's a better way of
sometimes you
putting
get
it.
ESP and you just feel that card is going to come in secret shop. You're like, I know I'm going to get something good. I can feel it. And it happens 100% of the
That's
time.
true.
Speaking of good, this one was revealed at PAX, I believe. 3 mana improvement for black Ironfog Goldmine. Get 3 gold after the combat phase. This is like a god tier improvement for black. Any kind of gold creation. Don't think we need to talk about this too much unless you guys want.
God tier.
Really?
It's
for
good
gold
in
creation
specific
decks?
types of.
It's pretty good.
All right, hold on. Let's stop this for a second here,
I-
Swim. All right. If you're building a gold creation deck, how
Is that
could
what we're
you
calling
not
them
put this in? I mean, what else would you call it? Gold influx deck? A gold
Call it gold deck.
digger deck?
Why? Just like this podcast, just keep it simple, man.
True. Gold deck. Okay.
I think
Doesn't sound that good.
it can depend a little bit on the composition of your deck. I'm not necessarily sure that this is a 3 of index that want to run gold generation. It's amazing in draft, and it's pretty good in constructed, but depending on the build of the deck, I think it might see a bit of cuts. It might not necessarily be a 3 of. I think one of the problems with this card is that Bounty Hunter is integral to kind of gold decks, I would say, personally. And Track and Iron Fog both come out on 3. If they kind of conflict for plays in your opening hand. So if you're running something like a blue-black with a single color black hero, Bounty Hunter, gold deck, Vesture, and One for Me, cards like that, which both Lumi and I have experimented with to pretty good success. Having 6 3-drops that all serve the same function being played on the same hero don't really work that well.
All right, let me put it this way. Even if it's a 2 of, it can still be considered god tier in my book because you can't cut Track, right? You can't cut these signature cards. Like if it was up to me, I would have 2 Tracks and 3 Iron Fogs versus
It's funny
vice versa.
I look at when you talk about, yes, you can't play all of those on your opening hand, but I feel like usually you kind of know which one you're going to play on your opening hand. Yes, it sucks that you might have a different one on turn 2.
Dude, that's
but
a great problem to have. How many times have I played where I don't get either of them in the first turn? Like, fuck me, dude.
It's called playing the game, dude.
I know. I gotta
think
get good, right?
The card is good. I suspect it might be a little overrated and constructed, but it's good.
So
1%
like,
overrated.
What would you consider like the solution then? Like, do you just you cut one of them, or do you? Because I feel Track is somewhat unreliable, and this is the easy, reliable way for black decks to make gold, or any gold generating deck.
They can. It ends up being. I mean, first of all, it's really awkward to draw late. It's pretty good, and it kind of pays off right away. But I mean, it really just comes down to ratioing. Like, you're not always you don't start your deck building with 3 Iron Fog gold mines in your deck, right? And I mean, personally, when I hear god tier, when you're blue, you can start your deck with 2 Annihilations, 2 Conflagrations, and 2 Aghanim Sanctum. When I build black, I don't start my black deck with 3 Iron Fog gold mines.
That's fair.
It's
a
very
high
good
tier
card.
for sure, at least, though,
It's
right?
high tier. Don't get me wrong.
I think SUNSfan right now is passionate about how valuable this card is.
All right, we're debating about whether a card is god tier or slightly below god, like god S tier.
There's a difference between S tier and A tier for sure.
Yeah,
all right, that's too anime for me, man. I still don't know what S tier means. I know it means the best.
This is a very good card. Don't get me wrong.
All right, I'm glad we spent 30 minutes talking about it. Next card. 4 mana, green spell, defensive bloom, summon 2 Roseleaf walls, which they don't actually show, but they're 0/8s.
Neat.
Yeah,
that's how I feel about this card. Neat.
I mean, it's a stall. It's good for green because you can buff them in a variety of ways, Lycan being the prime example. I don't know. I feel like this is a draft card, if anything. Otherwise, not constructed at all, right?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with this in draft at all. I mean, if you're basically able to save 16 health with this, it's kind of like a 4 heal 16.
I guess that's a good way to justify it. Yeah, because I mean, for me, I've seen this card, trying to build decks. I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like, but yeah, like we're talking about in those gauntlet, and doing draft modes, you really do want to keep things alive as long as possible. I think being defensive in draft can be really strong.
Yeah. I mean, this is not a bad draft card. It's fine.
All right. Next, we got Enchantress, the hero that just, for whatever reason, feels impossible to kill. It's a green hero, 4 attack.
Good flavor.
8 health. Her passive is Nature's Attendance. Okay, can we... I know I'm a negative Nancy, guys. I understand this. Why is it worded this way? Enchantress has 2 regeneration. Enchantress's allied neighbors have 2 regen. Why not just say Enchantress and her allied neighbors have 2 regeneration?
Artifact is a game that does a very, very good job. Like anytime
Yes.
I've thought something was a bug or like I thought, I understood it is very clear. The Artifact is one of the best games to be very clear on how
That's true.
things are worded. And if it requires a period instead of an and, who am I to judge?
I think
This means something's
SUNSfan's
coming.
wording
I
is
don't know.
pretty clear.
I mean, well, I can't, like, again, this is not something I even noticed until I was putting this slideshow together, actually. I didn't
So this is something
perhaps
perhaps in this situation could be maybe there's a way to reduce regeneration one day.
Ancient Apparition.
Dude, I don't know.
But what does
I'm
that have
just
to do with-
saying.
Okay, I still can't think of any
It's
scenario.
very clear that if more cards and more sets and more things that could affect certain things,
Right.
it's extremely, extremely clear in all those situations what has what.
Okay, and her card is the 5-mana improvement, Verdant Refuge. Allies have 1 armor. Kind of expensive, but I think really her calling card is this passive of hers. It's just, again, the regeneration comes into effect after the combat phase, so being able to do 8 damage to her beforehand is really valuable. Like Legion Commander, for example. Like in the game, it won't actually show you that you're killing. Like you're right in front of Enchantress, you're not killing her because of the regeneration. But if you duel her, she dies. Period. Which is pretty cool. But she's just super tanky. What do you guys think of Enchantress as a whole?
Great draft card. I mean, a lot of people compare this to Treant because they have similar passives, stat lines. Their cards are different. Enchantress is like the draft version, and Treant is like the constructed version. You don't really play Enchantress in constructed, but her attrition wins out. Her card and her passive are better in draft.
The Creequilibrium. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And I feel regen is something that it's going to be hard for a lot of people. It was hard for me when I first started playing to wrap my head around and like kind of understand. And then, once I was able to kind of figure it out, I started understanding the power of something like Enchantress. And I personally think her passive cards her signature cards are really good, especially if stacked.
Another one last thing about Verdant Refuge is that the curve in Artifact is a little wonky. You might have heard me or other people say that it's not curve stone. You're not just playing on curve, but curve still matters. There's very few good 5-mana cards in the entire game. Like you're usually playing a 4 on mana turn 4, and then you're playing another 4 on mana turn 5. So even though this is 5 mana, it's kind of okay that it's 5 mana.
Yeah, but a lot of times you still want to play that 4-mana card over this. I think, in the last scenario.
5 is definitely one of the curse numbers I feel of Artifact.
Yeah. There's like
It's just that
three good 5s.
It only gets good when you hit 10,
All right, next hero is Bloodseeker, a black hero, 7 attacks, 6 health. His passive is Bloodbath, fully healed Bloodseeker after a unit blocking it dies. And his unfortunate card is the 5-mana Blood Rage. Silence a unit this round. Give that unit +4 attack this round. So multiple uses, obviously. You can use it just to silence, but of course you're going to get the negative effect from your opponent having 4 extra attack. Or if you've used all your spells and you just want 4 extra attack, you can use this as well. I think it's a weak card personally, kind of very situational. His health is really low, but if you can get like Stonehall Cloak on him, he can actually be very difficult to kill. I think overall this hero is kind of poopy.
This is a very poopy hero.
Poopy.
This, I mean, normally this is kind of the point where I would be like, so, maybe this isn't a constructed hero. Maybe this is a draft hero. But honestly, I would probably run Debbie over this card. So
Yeah.
Really?
maybe,
Dude, Debbie's legit.
No, Debbie, I mean, here's the thing. I think the basic heroes get a little bit of a hard time. But yes, I think Debbie is really good.
I don't know what you guys think. I like his passive, though. I do like his. I just think his card is not good.
I mean, you get the right items, especially things that give you health, and it gets really, really hard to kill him. But like, is it what I want? Probably almost never. Especially, I think, particularly, this card doesn't feel great in any mono black or black X decks. Like, I would rather have a Debbie.
I think the problem with Bloodseeker's passive is like it's okay if your heroes die. It's the same thing with Abaddon, where both of their passives, well, Abaddon's isn't active, but their function is singularly keep this hero alive, right? And I mean, I would just rather have something that affects the board in a very reliable way, because heroes come back and that's fine if they die like once or twice a game. But something like a Treant passive or a Lycan passive will just affect the board every single.
You are like a southerner when you say Lycan, man. Holy jeez.
You know, that's kind of going to be the interesting part. I think a lot of people are going to have different interpretations on how to say words. Well, you know, you got like various areas of North America. You got Europeans. We're going to have probably a lot of, you know, Asian representation in this game too. It's like we're going to see a lot of people pronounce things very little.
Not only that, a lot of people not from Dota, right, pronouncing things that, like if Aegis was put in the game, I'm sure a lot of people would say Aegis, for example, right?
Well, the question, yeah, until it was clarified, I mean, I still think to this day it was pretty argued.
But yeah, Bloodseeker, not. I think the problem with Bloodseeker is that you can't really, like, how do you make Rupture a card? You know, like, how does that? Can you think of anything that would make this?
Yeah, it's like your opponent uses phase boots across the lane and they just die.
I mean,
oh boy,
this Blood Rage is not the same as we see now today, right?
That's true. That's true.
Like it's just, that's the thing is maybe they like imagining them balancing Dota around this card now, like having to go back.
I'm sure they had various iterations of this hero.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I think there's probably no reason Blood Rage couldn't be 4 mana. I mean, it would not suddenly make this hero OP at that point. It's just a little overcosted.
It'd feel a little bit better. A 5, yeah. Once again, cursed 5. 5 is a cursed number in art.
I think the same can be said. Rick's has been, all his stuff has been revealed, right?
Yes.
Yes, he was played.
5 mana card, so that doesn't feel good either. It just feels like that's always just stuck in your hand, you know?
Well, it's one of those things where they're trying to balance out. Like this is one where the case where I think the hero and the signature card could use like either some buffs or, you know, I wish it was a little bit different. Where Rick's, you know, you have a different advantageous scenario there. Right?
I mean, the one thing I will say, as far as synergy goes, the fact that he heals when the unit blocking it dies is similar to the way Bristleback works. You don't have to actually kill it yourself. With all the cross lane spells that Black has, you can clear up. I mean, it's not great, although it does technically synergize, you know?
Yep.
But maybe with the future, it can be more playable. 2 mana Black Creep Assassin's Apprentice is a 3/2. And its active ability, which you use every round, is choose a combat target for Assassin's Apprentice. This is a very, very popular card.
Really?
Yes. You don't think it's popular?
It's like a neat card. Again, I don't hate it, but like I'm not aiming for it, I think, a lot. Its passive is awesome. But as particularly in constructed, like I don't ever look at this card really.
A tournament winning deck had this in it.
That is true.
Big time.
I think that,
and I remember thinking the same thing as you as well, actually. Like I didn't understand why it was that good, and then in draft I see it all the time as well. It seems very effective.
Oh, definitely understand the value of it. It's just like not my go-to, not my style. Maybe is a better way of putting it.
Okay.
When I play mono black or play black decks, hit him in the face.
I'm hitting him face. This can hit face for 3 damage.
True. It can also it can also help clear to help you can hit more face.
True.
This is definitely a very good card. Like you're happy to see this in drafts. Probably maybe like worse than Iron Fog Goldmine in draft. In constructed, I think that Black has the 2 most competitive Black decks are going to be Black Red kind of hero killer track and then end the game with Horn. Which is the deck you're talking about, SUNSfan. Assassin's Apprentice is very good there. You know, you can either go face with this or curve it into a hero, and that's really important when you're denying casting. And the other Black deck is going to be like a black-blue kind of Vesture style. This probably won't see play there, but it's very good in probably the more popular Black style.
Yeah. She has a big sister, Conrad. I don't know if you're aware of this. The Sister of the Veil. Basically the same thing, except it's 5 mana. And a 4/5, same active ability.
If only she wasn't 5 mana.
5 mana.
That's like once again that 5 mana just feels like. But I love this. I actually prefer this card.
Really?
I think. Yeah. I like some of the. I like something that could survive a couple turns, or 4 damage ends up being much more beneficial, I feel, than the 3. 3 always feels awkward, especially once we go back to melee creeps. Becomes kind of issue.
Yeah, the first one's more for, in my opinion, getting that 3 extra damage onto a unit that's like a hero or something, as opposed to this one, which can stay in a lane technically. Although I don't see this nearly as often.
I mean, I think Swim's last point of like, it matters what deck you're playing. Like that is the most. That's why I find it almost so hard to rate cards in this game. Is that like, yes, there's some cards that are including in every deck, but like, you can make really interesting, good decks. Maybe not necessarily the most competitive, but around other cards that people consider quote unquote bad.
This is actually a very good draft card. This card doesn't look like much at all. And I wouldn't run this in Constructed. It doesn't really find the same place Assassin's Apprentice does. This card probably looks like ass to a lot of people. This is good in draft. I mean, it comes back to like the creep trading numbers. 4 attack is exactly what you want. You can curve it into a hero or just clear out creeps. And 5 health allows you to survive 2 creep hits.
All right, this one, the name change, 4 mana, black spell, coordinated assault, and a new picture. Actually, well, a stolen picture from another card. Modify a black hero with after you play a black card, give this hero and its allied neighbors +2 attack this round. Swim and I have played around with this card a decent amount. Actually, I think you were the one that introduced me to it. And it's quite strong. It is quite freaking strong, I have to say.
Wait, what did they do with the other card?
So I guess for people that don't know, this used to be called Crack the Whip. It is no longer, that name has been deleted from the game, along with the art, I believe. I don't know, what is the card that this art came from, was that revealed?
It's revealed, yes.
All right, so it used to be called Murder Plot, which gives 8 damage and you can choose a target to combat. But now it's using this art, so I don't know what Murder Plot looks like anymore. But this card's really good, regardless of name.
Yeah. I think this card's really good. I've met a lot of people that think this card's really bad. I think this is one of the ones that people... there's a few cards in Artifact right now that I think people have very differing opinions on, and this might be one of them.
Yep. This card's great.
I think this card's like amazing. Like, I don't know what anybody's thinking.
Well, so again, to go back to Swim's point from earlier, when you play this, it activates itself or procs itself. So it's not like it's not like the card that feels really bad to play, even though it's really good, is Heartstopper Aura from Necro. It does fucking nothing the turn you use it. Absolutely nothing. And a lot of times you're actually just going to die that round anyway, so you can't even use it until he gets deployed anyway. So this one, at least something happens right away, which is always nice. Yeah. Next one is, speaking of Necro's Aura, Ristool Emblem. I feel like I've talked about this so much. It's a 4 gold accessory item, which is the health category.
But they were called trinkets.
I don't think so.
I think they're called accessories.
Trinkets. There's no way they're called trinkets. I would have.
I keep. Oh, okay.
Accessory. I don't know why it's called accessory. Why not just health? Anyway, equipped hero has 4 health and -2 armor, along with the unit blocking it. We'll also get that -2 armor. So things like Retaliate are really strong with this. I think, again, I've talked about this before. Necro's Heartstopper Aura is it's god tier because it's like you're basically stacking 2 for the hero that's blocking you at least. But this item overall is very kind of niche or niche if you're American.
I would like to draw everyone's attention to the symbol at the bottom middle of the card. This little gold icon indicates that this is a rare card, and my heart goes out to anyone who opens this in a pack.
They can sell it though, right?
Just because something has a nice little gold sticker don't mean a good, dude.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's going to sell for high the first week because nobody knows this is not good.
Well, we just told them.
I think people will. I think they'll know.
They'll read the text and go, "Yeah, I just don't think that one's a solid for me."
I don't know. If you pick, a lot of people love the legendaries in Hearthstone. Doesn't matter how bad they are, you know.
Yeah, but legendaries actually do something.
A lot of them are real bad, though.
No, I don't know. I look at this card and,
This isn't even a niche. This works in very situational decks. I think. I think it's niche.
Artifacts has a lot of symmetrical effects, and you as a player need to make sure you find a way to make them asymmetrical towards your favor. I like that. That's one of my favorite design concepts. Ristool Emblem has a sub-symmetrical effect, because the hero you equip this to will always have the minus armor, and there won't always be a unit blocking it to effect. Sometimes it'll be unblocked, and it's just the downside then.
Very true.
Yeah. There's some very niche things that you can do with this, like around spells. I've seen that before, but I don't think it's like I've only ever seen in Chaos.
All right, next
Only in
one.
random.
This one is interesting. 2 mana, black improvement, bitter enemies. Comes with 3 charges right off the bat. After each combat phase, it will remove a charge. When it gets to 0, it'll do 6 damage to both towers. And this is the thing I didn't realize until like a few weeks ago. It will keep doing 6 damage to each tower every round after that.
Wait, you thought it just dealt 6 once?
I mean, I'd never played it, so like what was it, like 3-4 weeks
I
ago?
I don't blame you.
The first time I read this, I'm like, this is horrible, and then I found out about that. I'm like, it's still pretty bad, but
what's that color at the bottom, guys?
Yes.
Yeah, my thoughts exactly.
I mean, it's funny because I actually think this card is slow. It's too slow to be in most black decks.
That is true.
Like if you don't get it off turn 1 and you're going aggro, that's the only time I think it's okay. And this card also looks like a great way to tie. Like that nobody wants.
But
that.
how many times you're trying to play aggro and you just can't quite finish that tower, but then you have to wait 3 turns, so it's terrible. I don't like it.
This card is very, very bad.
It has a cool animation though.
It does. I actually don't know what it is. I haven't played this card.
But I'll take your word for it. All right, moving on. You talk about this hero, Treant Protector, green hero, 4 attack, 10 health. Passive is Branches of Iron, not Iron Branch, Branches of Iron. Treant Protector's allied neighbors have 2 armor, not himself. And he comes with a 4 mana creep, Roseleaf Druid. It's a 2 attack, 6 health. Your tower has +1 mana, so for ramping. A little extra ramping and a creep to boot.
I love it.
You
I love this hero. Yeah, I think it's in a lot of my green decks, and I really like mono green, and this card is fantastic.
I think for a majority of cards, like I said, some cards are like constructed cards, some cards are draft cards. There's a lot more cards that are good in draft and bad in constructed. This is one of the cards that is probably better in constructed than draft. You can kind of build around the Treant, and the +1 mana is nice in draft, but it's not quite as good. Honestly, this is a good card in both modes. Very good.
All right.
Yeah.
Moving on, Temple of War is a 3 mana red improvement. All equipped heroes have +2 attack and 1 armor. So the symmetrical effect you're talking about, it feels like this is so hard to pull off because everybody's buying those basic items, and like you almost always have the gold. You just need 3 gold. You know, that's all you need.
You actually.
Oh, go ahead.
I was scrimming some aggro against you, SUNSfan, a couple weeks ago, and I played this card. Remember? And you were like, "Yeah."
Did you win or lose that game?
I don't remember, but the card didn't help me. It's actually kind of close. You can kind of see it a little, but it's just a little too hard to make sure you get reliable value out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel great in either format with this card. It's funny because I think before you joined the beta swim, there was actually like a whole meta of like never seeing 3 gold cards ever.
Yep, that's true.
Like there was, and this card was.
Everybody was playing the gold decks, so the cheapest item was probably Stonehall Cloak at 5, and then everything else is just these massive items.
At that time, yeah, I think that was primarily it. But this one, yeah, whatever.
Whatever indeed. Next one, I think we can all agree is pretty much on the same category. 3 mana, black improvement, Assured Destruction. All heroes have 4 siege. Conrad likes this card, I think.
I love this
God,
card.
why?
And I know everybody thinks it's not good, but I love this card.
Why? Why would you do this to yourself?
I think it's... Oh, dude. This is like... We were talking about, someone was talking about high rollers earlier. This is the ultimate high roll card. Like, you got to believe. It's funny. This is a staple, I think, in a Meepo deck.
A staple in a Meepo deck.
So that means you have to play black, blue to make it work.
Not a bad combo.
I mean, hey, Meepo goes off with this. That's true.
Yeah. I actually, like I said, I really like this card. I don't think it is a hyper aggro. You can put yourself in a very bad situation very quickly. So I like it because because you're able to play it in any lane as an improvement. It really forces you to think about your moves really early on, and it can backfire based on some of the other decks, but I think it's really fun. You talk about you're talking about those moments where you can't get through. This is that moment.
There's
this is
also
the thing that gets you.
I know it's been revealed, but I don't know if it's on this list or not. Actually, maybe I don't know if it's been revealed. There's another card that basically does the same thing, but for one turn. So, forward charge,
assault ladder. Oh yeah,
yes,
forward charge. Right.
That was revealed. Yes.
So that's just I feel like a way better version of this.
But this one lasts every turn. I think forward charge is a nice niche little thing to help push things through. Especially, I think it's actually better for the arrow control. But this one's nice because think about it. You have 2 heroes in a lane. That's 8 damage. That's awesome.
Yeah, but forward charge gives siege to all units as well. All your allies.
2 siege.
What did I say?
Yeah.
I said it gives siege. Did I say a number?
Yeah, it gives siege.
Yeah. But I'm saying I think 2 is very different. I think you have.
All right, whatever. This card sucks.
Well,
Next one.
I think actually, if I may,
sure.
I'll settle this. These cards are both bad.
That's fine.
Okay, so
I'm fine with that.
Assured Destruction. I was drawn to this card. I tried it in aggro. Real quick. There's a few problems with it. Usually black heroes have high attack, and if you're playing aggro, you'd rather be punching through creeps than sieging them. Because that's kind of the only way you're going to be able to make the clock that aggro needs to be able to make. And sometimes you can just get raced. Like I said, healing is important in this game. This game is kind of a base race. Like if you're playing an aggro deck and if your opponent is even like mid-rangey, if you put this down, they can sometimes literally just race you on this lane, even though you're aggro.
Yeah, I think the key thing is that I don't always play it early either. Like it's actually sometimes nice just kind of punch through at the end. It's like a weird finisher card almost.
Yeah,
it's all about how, you talk about, you don't always have to play on the mana curve. Like I sometimes get this early on, and if I don't feel it's valuable, I'll hold on to it and use it later on when I think I maybe have either an advantage or I need to help push through another lane.
Yeah.
All right. Next one, I think we can all agree is amazing. 6 mana blue spell, Annihilation. Condemn all units.
This card's okay.
You don't play 3 necessarily. I think that most people are playing 2 that I've seen at least.
2 is more common.
But it's in, I want to say, almost every single deck that has blue in it. And if you see this in draft, 100% you take it if you're running any kind of blue.
It's really interesting to me because I look at this card and I think, once again, it's situational. Like sometimes, it does do a really good job of helping kind of stall a game or clear out a lane that's just out of control. But, sometimes I don't want this card in my blue deck.
Really?
I always want this card in my
It's really good though. Don't get me wrong. Like I would say it is a very rarely. This is I think this is even like a high tier plus. Like rather than
God
tier.
If
it's definitely God tier. Okay,
System,
sorry.
This
that's
is 5 horse heads. Okay.
It's God tier. It's God tier.
Are you trying to be a hipster, Connor? You've been living in San Francisco a little too long, buddy. What is this?
Dude,
a short destruction's good, Annihilation.
You assume I can afford to live in San Francisco.
That's true.
Problem.
That's Twitch.
So
you got to step it up.
Everyone knows Annihilation is nutty. One aspect of this card that people kind of undervalue is the fact that even when you're not playing it, it's giving you value because your opponent is playing around it. This card being in your deck passively makes it almost impossible for the opponent to even try killing your ancient.
It's the black hole of Artifact.
Yes.
There's a lot of
Enigma is just the threat. Ravage, I think, is maybe a shittier version of what we're talking about, but it's there as well.
Oh yeah. Every 6 mana turn, I'm playing against anything blue. I go.
Yeah, it's always there. Now,
and
one thing to note that's very important. There is one unit in the game that will survive this, and his name is Relentless Zombie. Okay, he has a death shield. Eventually, that will be coming to other things, I'm sure. Next item, Poaching Knife. 8 gold. Equipped hero has 2 attack. And you also get 5 gold after killing a hero and 1 gold extra for killing creep. So essentially doubles your gold for the lane that you're in. It's not based on that hero that's equipped killing stuff. It's anything in that lane, which, again, that was not made clear by reading it to me. I don't know how you guys felt about it. I had to learn through somebody else, but maybe Swim actually.
That's like something that it all took us a while to get used to at first, which is that if it doesn't say in any lane, it means that lane. Yep. That's gonna trip a lot of people up.
Well, no, that I meant not for any lane. It was more for that hero specifically. I thought it only doubled the gold. That's what I originally thought. But either way,
yeah, I mean, I think it's a language thing. Like once you learn the language of Artifact, I think everything is very crystal clear. There's no questions asked. But yeah, this one was confusing when I first saw it too, because I was like, oh, if only this card does damage, or this hero that has this card does.
I don't really see this very often though. Like in theory, it works with gold creation, but I don't. You never see.
It was in the pack stack, right?
I don't remember.
I want to say it was.
It's a little. The problem with gold creation, even like when you use it with like track and payday and stuff, is it's kind of a little slow for that deck. Like. You buy this early and then kind of like maybe it forces you to wait longer for your payday, for your buildup. If you want to combo with gold creation, just buy something like a Keenfolk Musket that might aid you in killing a hero, right? Like if you just want to combo with that strategy.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, next we got the gold creator himself, Bounty Hunter, a black hero, 7 attack, 7 health. 50% of the time, thanks to Janata passive, he will get 4 attack. Very controversial subject, by the way. And his card is a 3-mana black spell, Track. Give a hero plus 10 bounty until it dies. Or TP's back to base, which is very frustrating. Playing Bounty Hunter. I love this hero. God, he's so good.
This card's great.
Good hero. Good signature card.
So you get 15 gold for killing heroes when they're tracked. If you could track creeps, that would be nice.
Huh? What gold? How much gold would it give you?
5 plus 2.
2 gold.
Or 5 plus
2
1.
gold.
Oh, it doubles the gold from 1 to 2.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. I was like, I don't know. I was like,
you can't TP the creeps back, so
we could. Sure, you just end up purging of creeps.
Kind of what we alluded to earlier. This is like the track is a little bit situational because obviously you can TP back, but also it just sometimes feels like it gets stuck in your hand, especially if it's like in the middle of the game, perhaps, and it's hard sometimes to get track kills, I feel like. But it's still one of those, like, if you're doing gold creation, this is the hero you put in for the most part.
It only takes one of these to pay. The amount of gold you generate.
Track is a pretty clunky card. Honestly, I would rate Bounty Hunter lower if not for the fact that I think he does extremely well in where I see Black's best archetype being, which is like the black-red hero killer style, right? That's the blue counter, punish their squishy heroes, end the game early with golds. Bounty Hunter does that amazingly with his huge body and Track, of course.
Huge body indeed. 3 mana spell for blue,
Absolute
compel.
Unit.
Choose a unit, choose a combat target for it, draw a card. I like it. I like this card a lot, actually. So, the thing you have to note, of course, is choose a unit. You can use an ally or an enemy. That's probably the most powerful aspect of this card. Plus, you just draw a card as well. So, who is it? Battlefield Control does the same thing, but doesn't draw you a card, but it is 1 mana, right? But that is a signature card, of course.
That's
for Jamoy the boy. Of course, you have to be running Jamoy, which doesn't feel great a lot of the time. But what do you guys think of this guy or this card?
SUNSfan, this is a god tier card.
Ooh, god tier, okay.
This card is a large part of what makes blue as strong as it is. It gives blue everything at once. It kind of mulligans your bad rolls on hero spawns in round 1. Like you spawn into a bristle, compel it, right? Mm-hmm. There's actually a bit of a debate whether some people like compel better or cunning plan. I am very much in the compel camp personally. There's so much you can do with this card, and the fact that it draws you a card just makes it so much better than Jamoy's spell.
I also think compel is just a better card. Like the ability to choose any unit is so valuable.
It's more flexible than cunning plan, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think Swim hit all the right points. It does everything blue needs, all at once.
All right, next card we got is the 1 mana black improvement escape route, essentially a TP, an active ability you can use every round. Constructed, I've never seen this before. Draft, I think it's playable just because it's hard to move around a lot. But
Yeah.
I haven't seen it
I
that
would
often
say
either.
I might be the person that experimented this card the most because I
Really?
used to think it was good, and
I
then I
was-
was like, "This card's not good," and then I stopped using it.
I was about to say this is one of like the telltale signs of like a constructed hipster deck builder. Like
That's me.
I've seen like 3 or 4 players that mess around with this card, and it's cute. It's
There's
not
one or-
terrible.
There's 1 or 2 neat interactions this card can have.
Oh,
You
But
can
that's
TP a hero to base, and then you can TP a hero to base.
Oh, it relates to a hero that I don't think is released.
Okay, moving on. We have the 5 mana green spell, Intimidation. Move a unit to a random other lane. For draft specifically, I feel like this is, I gotta have this card if I see it. I gotta take it every time. It is so good. Because moving around is so difficult.
This card, when I got in Chaos Gauntlet taught me about this card.
Mm.
And when I got it, I was like, oh, damn. Because it is, once again, any unit. And I think it's great to have like a one-off in this. Like, I don't feel bad having, maybe if I'm doing like a condensed green deck, like having one of these doesn't feel bad.
this is an okay card.
Really?
It's aight.
All right, let me
It's
tell you a
aight.
story that'll change your mind from first swear, okay? This literally happened yesterday.
Your story is
Yes.
changing my mind. Please tell me
Literally,
more.
this happened yesterday. I was playing Gauntlet, and I actually don't know who this person is, but I can't even remember what their name was. But they actually called GG out beforehand because they used a card that we're going to be revealing in a second, Cover of the Night, to go to a lane to win, in theory, right? You know what I did? I used 2 intimidations on both my heroes, and they both moved to that lane. And I
The
won
casual
as a result.
25%.
Yeah, I was about to say,
20
you just like...
Yeah.
Is it
25% of the time it works
Well, no,
every
it's
time.
50 times.
it
How does the
50?
probability? It's 50 each time, and they're separate
Yeah.
instances, so it's still 50, right? Is that how
It's
it
25%.
Yeah, 25% for that
But they're
exact
not-
interaction.
they're not-
No.
oh,
He's
okay, I
talking
see what you're
about
saying.
each
Yeah, yeah.
interaction in his head.
Yeah.
It's,
Okay, okay.
it's 25.
So
so it's
how
correct.
could you? Oh, this,
Let me just say one thing, by the way. No Dota person should ever question the math of a
True.
card player because we are so bad. We are so bad.
Swim. Are you saying this is not good in draft? Or when you
I
give your
think it's-
opinion, are you talking about constructed or draft?
This is a solid draft card. I wouldn't say
Solid.
I wouldn't say it's great. Okay, so this card, it looks good. It's flexible. I love it. I love that you can use it on your own units. It is kind of always a high roll, I think. Kind of honestly, the way you described it is perfect. I loved this card when I first saw it. I tried it out a lot, and almost always when you play this card, there's going to be one good outcome and one bad outcome. Like there's going to be one lane you want the unit to go in and one lane you don't. And it's kind of always or almost always a 50-50 because of that.
But do you consider that like a calculated risk you're willing to take by playing this card? I mean, it's not that was definitely brings down its
Sometimes,
value.
yeah.
But like,
it's still an okay card. Like if you are playing green in draft, you pick this, there's a good chance this is going in your deck. It's not like below the cut threshold, but I wouldn't go out of my way to pick this up. It's
All right, I'm
okay.
going to disagree with Swim here, okay? And I'm going to say in most of, I don't know if it's just me, again, this could be small sample size or whatever you
Of
want
one?
to call it. No. I'm talking about just generally speaking. In most
Okay.
draft games, it feels like I'm talking like for me, 80+%, a lane is given up by each respective player and it comes down to just this third lane that we're just battling. This is where this card becomes like I don't care where that hero goes as long as he's not in that lane. And this is like a great game finisher. This is great for moving like a Thunderhide Alpha that they get at the end of the game. It can be used on anything like we talked about. And of course, obviously the fringe case that I'm talking about where I put it on my own here, that's super lucky. And it's a last resort, but at least it gives you a chance. And for draft specifically, this is like a Beastmaster Roar almost on one unit. And for 5 men, I don't know. I'm very high on this card.
I will say it depends on your deck. Like one thing about deck building and artifact is every deck needs a few cards at least to be able to capitalize off of initiative. So, for example, if you're in draft, What's a green card I can actually mention?
Do some math.
You guys might know the card that I wanted to
Yep.
mention.
Everyone knows the card you want to mention.
So basically, if you are in a draft where you kind of don't have a combo with blue or black, this is kind of better with green red perhaps, because red has fewer ways to play for initiative. This card has a higher chance of going in your deck because you need every deck to have some way to capitalize off of, okay, I got the initiative in this lane, I can kind of turn the tables on this lane.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. This one I've never personally played. 3 mana, blue spell, Wrath of Gold. You spend all of your gold, and then you deal 4 damage to a random ally or enemy, and it keeps repeating based on how much gold you actually spend. So each gold that's spent deals 4 damage to a random enemy or ally. Have you guys used this before?
I had it in a Chaos Gauntlet, and it helped me win that game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was able to generate a little bit of gold, and I needed an Annihilation equivalent I didn't have in my hand, so I used this.
Yeah, that could definitely work. Yeah.
It's what is interesting is that it spends all your gold immediately. So it is whatever gold is beforehand, not whatever you kill during that phase. And so you can actually generate a lot of gold off of it. Your opponent can also generate a lot of gold with this. But it's niche. I'd consider picking it up in draft, but it's not like it would be not always my first pick, but maybe if I was going for blue, like I wouldn't feel absolutely terrible about having this. But it's not fun. I do love also the card art on this one. It's one of my just like exploding gold.
I never actually looked at it that closely, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like one thing that a lot of people in the beta haven't done is actually like look at the art. There's some really fun art.
Swim, is this card good or bad for you?
It's bad. SUNSfan.
I love the
It's okay.
This is one of those cards that, I mean, it's unique. It's exciting. You know, it does something different, and you want it to be good. And I wanted it to be good, and it doesn't meet the bill for either constructed or drafts. I mean, honestly, like,
I've never heard
want
that expression. Meet the bill.
Fit the bill. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe. So sometimes I just ask pull expressions. It's one of those cards that I wish was good, but it's just so inconsistent and hard to gain value.
Yeah,
it's not a.
It's for the memers, Conrad.
It's for the
Yeah,
memers,
exactly.
dude.
I will say,
man.
part of the problem with this card is items are really good. Like,
Yes.
spending gold for items, especially when you kind of curve for the high tier items, is incredibly high value.
I think what maybe draws me to this card so much, and what it was that experience in Chaos Gauntlet, like that might be the only time you may even see something like this card. Yeah. And you have a unique, interesting moment where you had to do a play, like, you know, it showed your skill as a player on how to like do a move with the card that is typically complete trash. You know, in the right situation, the right time.
For sure.
And I think there's going to be a few cards like that'll be shown, but that's half the fun.
Oh God, there's one that we're all thinking of. I cannot wait to see reaction on.
Oh,
there's a couple in mind. There's a few. There's
There's one that rises above the rest. Let's be real, Conrad.
I don't know, man. New version or old version?
Either one. All right, so we only have a few cards left, 3, I believe. So Beastmaster is the last hero we're going to be going over. He is a red hero, 5 attack, 12 health. Comes with an active ability you can use every 3 rounds, Call of the Wild, where you summon a loyal beast, which is this little guy. He's a 3 attack, 1 armor, 3 health creep. When it deals battle damage to a unit, it modifies the unit with -1 attack, so similar to Hellbear Crippler. And he comes with a 7 mana red spell, Primal Roar. Stun a unit blocking an allied red hero this round, and then move that unit's allied neighbors to random other lanes. This card specifically feels really, really good in draft. Of course, the problem is you have to be in front of a red hero.
Yeah, it kind of has the same problem as Sucker Punch, which we went over earlier a little bit, which is that, I mean, it's an initiative card, right? And in a dream world, you can kind of use phase boots or something to set this up. But the fact that you use this to block the opponent out of play options means you will not have the opportunity to set up the target for this. The stars will have to align on their own. That being said, very high value. Beastmaster is a very solid draft card.
It's more
Not so much
consistent than what's the stunning card called again? Sucker Punch. It's more consistent because
you have a broader range.
Yeah, you have a broader range. Like you can stun a creep and still send 2 heroes theoretically, so it's a higher probability. But against really wide lanes, this hero feels atrocious. But then again, most red heroes do.
Yep, that's kind of my same feelings exactly. I kind of like it actually. I used to actually hate this card or hate the hero itself and never actually see it. And then somebody started playing it at kind of a little bit into the beta, and I was like, okay, I could see the merits of it. And it's one of those things where I feel like you have to play it a few times to understand why it can be good.
All right, last 2 cards, I believe. We talked about this one. Cover of the Night is a black 7 mana spell. Move an allied black hero to another lane. Give that hero 4 attack and 7 siege until the end of its next combat phase. So, great way to move around. Very expensive. 7 siege. I'm trying to think. Is there any higher siege in the entire game? I don't think so. Thunderhide pack is 6. I think this is the highest. I'd say
depends on how many assured destructions you have.
That's true, I guess.
I'm just kidding.
I would say this is probably not great in constructed, is my guess, but it's okay in Gauntlet. But I haven't really seen that much of it, to be honest.
I don't like this card.
I'm not the biggest fan. It's definitely it's an okay card in draft. It is.
Yes. I tried to experiment with it a lot. Because I tried to experiment with black cards, just mono black specifically, and I just did not feel good.
It's weird that you're getting 4 attack and 7 siege when sometimes it just doesn't feel that great all the time. Like
it's supposed to be like that weird finisher card.
Yeah.
I feel, it's like kind of like a time of triumph, except not at all.
I know it's not exactly the same thing, but I compare it to, like, when I try to fit this into my deck, I'm looking at Relentless Pursuit and I'm like, that's a 1 mana card. Yeah, you don't get all these benefits, but you move lanes, which is probably the most important factor of this. You deal 2 damage, and it's 1 mana versus 7. I don't know. This is a really hard one to use, I think. But obviously can win you games. Like we talked about Gauntlet. You can't always build the deck that you always want as far as mobility is concerned, so that's why it's can be considered higher value for that.
Yeah, and the format is just slower. Like every game on average, it goes through 3 rounds longer.
Yeah, you don't lose.
I find myself
often early.
Occasionally like splashing black, particularly like PA. Great one-off kind of throw in there. Doesn't feel great, but could be worse.
Could be worse. All right, last one we got is the 7 mana green creep Roseleaf rejuvenator, 7 attack, 7 health. Play effect is heal your tower for 7.
Really underrated card.
Yeah, I've seen this a lot in draft. A lot.
Oh, I think it's an amazing draft card.
It's a pretty good draft card, I think.
For green, so here's the thing. For green, I think it's a pretty damn good draft card.
I'll call it a pretty damn good out of 5. Like, what is that? It's a pretty good card.
I think the ability, like we were talking about, regenning your towers and stuff like that, like you can really throw your opponent off in
yeah.
And I think that's like one of the most interesting parts of Artifact is when, everybody thinks they have all the pieces, put together. I know exactly how to win this turn, and then some card like this comes out, and you go, okay, I guess I need 7 more damage somehow, and you just don't have that in your hand, and you were prepping for this whole way, and especially when it comes late because it is a 7 mana card, it creates a very, very interesting situation.
I think a lot of you guys in watching this will be pretty surprised how often this 7 health ends up like winning you the game or keeping you in the game. Mm-hmm. Like it's actually pretty often.
Yeah.
All right, that is it, my friends. Let's bring our cameras back because I forgot to set it up for that screen.
Did you hear there's 2 new cards revealed?
Yeah, you want to do those?
Really?
Yeah. It's smash the defenses and spot weakness.
All right, hold on. I got to set it up, guys.
No problem.
Just like you set up the cams.
Okay, Conrad, we gotta entertain everyone while SUNSfan is doing this.
I mean, I think it's funny because
it's in a video. This makes my life so hard.
Dude, just take a couple screenshots. We'll chat a little bit. You'll be all good, dude.
Damn it.
We got your back.
I don't like this.
Conrad, what are we gonna talk about?
I don't know, man. Let's talk about a shirt. No, I'm just kidding. No, I that's the thing is, one of the most parts of Artifact has been the disagreement on cards. There's so many other card games that I've seen. I personally don't come from a card game background, so it's very different for me. But it's very interesting to see like there's not a consensus. Where I felt like so many other games, there's just like this is the law, and if you don't abide by the law, you know your whole opinion's just trash. And like, and to me, like this is the first time I felt like there was like really interesting elements to talk about, and when not everybody agrees, it's not a bad thing because people just like certain decks, people like different things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's part of what you get with such a like a version game, right?
Mhm.
Like there's so much kind of left to explore. People are not necessarily evaluating things all on the same page. Like even players that have kind of a lot of experience in both other card games and artifacts will disagree even quite a bit about certain cards.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've seen, I think we noticed that change a lot when I saw a lot of Gwent players end up joining the beta. I don't know if that Gwent was just like more cerebral to like Artifact, like it was more of a connection. Maybe you know a little bit better than I do, but like,
Hey guys,
you know,
I just
think
want
you
to
guys
say
set
I've been
the tone.
listening to every word you're saying, and I completely agree. And I'm also ready. Sorry.
Oh, okay,
For
good. Thank
Red?
God.
Are you red?
We were out of stuff to talk about it.
All right. So let's get into the two reveals that have come out while we've been waiting. First one is a 3-mana spell, smash their defenses, condemn an improvement, and draw a card. Okay. Can I begin?
Go for
I
it, man.
love this card. I know that Swim is going to slightly disagree with me.
Oh, come on.
Here's a question.
Fucking
Here's a better question.
love this card.
Is this a god card? Is this a 5 out of 5?
All right. I think if you're running red, you have to have at least 1 to 2 in your deck. That's how I feel right now. So that makes it, for me, that makes it close to god tier. Close.
It's a very good card. It's definitely like, you know, in the very good category.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I agree with Swim. This is like it's like a demigod. It's a demigod card.
That's kind of what I just said. So we all agree
I
with
don't
each
know.
other. That's great to hear.
You were
Okay.
praising this.
No,
I will
the
say-
reason is because I've been wanting to talk about this for a while because I keep mentioning there's ways to kill improvements, and for red, this is the best way.
It's pretty good. Okay, okay, all right. So real quick, let me break this down. A lot of everyone who first started our artifacts overrated this card at first.
Okay.
Like we all jammed like 3 of these cards into our decks, and you know, I mean it's kind of important because improvements are probably the best category of card in the game. Like improvements are great.
Yep.
But this can definitely brick. And another issue with this card is like a lot of the time they'll play their improvement in the lane you don't have a red hero. Red is a pretty 2 of color. Like most decks that run red are like 3 black 2 red or 3 blue 2 red, right? Red is not as much a 3 of color. There is like 3 red 2 blue that some people prefer instead. But it's kind of easy for them to avoid playing it on a lane with a red hero. And then, you know, maybe 3 turns pass, you redeploy your red hero to that lane, but the improvements has been ticking for 3 turns. And even though you get to draw a card from this, the improvement will have gotten more value in those 3 turns than the card will give you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think this card, if you're playing it on 3 mana, feels usually amazing, depending on the deck that they're playing, of course. I'm particularly thinking in the green matchup.
So we did see this a lot in Constructed, as you said, and I think in Gauntlet, I don't get to see this as often because it doesn't come up nearly as often because it's an uncommon. But improvements like we talked about, I think, are far more powerful in Gauntlet because there's less ways to actually get rid of improvements, and this for red is the creme de la creme.
If you could play this card just to cycle itself, like without condemning an improvement, it would be much better. Like the problem is this can literally get stuck in your hand sometimes.
Just play your own improvement, dude.
I've done that.
No,
it's good.
We've all done it.
It
We've
feels
all
good.
done it, I feel.
You have to do it quite often, actually. Like in the late game, at like the 8 and 9 mana turns, you will be smashing your own improvement just to desperately cycle this card because you need it out of your hand.
Right.
I will also say this is one of the most satisfying cards in the game. There is no better feeling than somebody thinking they got, we just talked about Aghanim Sanctum. They place it down, they refresh, you go, or even before they refresh and just boop.
It feels good.
But it's, it's not always.
So this is
I
the
think
reason.
Swim's absolutely right. It can just die in your hand. It feels terrible.
This is the reason.
It is a good card.
When you play improvements against red, usually you're not playing a mono red, so you're playing like a black red or something like that. You want to put this in a lane that a red hero is not in, at least initially, because you don't want to get countered right away. That's pretty much how most people have been playing against it.
So what's your thoughts on mono red now? Because I remember it's a while ago now, but you were feeling it.
I think that mono is gonna get a lot better over time. I think it's kind of not there yet, but
just being figured out and stuff.
Pretty much. I mean, short aside, when you compare it to Magic, there's a lot of mechanics in Magic that incentivize like color splitting, namely like duo lands, and also the fact that most cards cost predominantly colorless mana and only like 1 or 2 colored mana. Artifact doesn't really have anything like that. And as the card pool expands, you will, I think, see a lot more reason to just run mono. Like the casting opens up.
Yep.
I mean, we'll
Absolutely.
see.
Yeah, I was just curious because I remember you were really high on mono red for a while.
All right. Actual last card, unless another one comes out in the next 20 seconds. 3 mana, red spell, Spot Weakness. I actually thought it was called Spot the Weakness. Huh. Interesting. Give a hero and its allied neighbors Pierce this round and draw a card. Of course, Pierce means you ignore armor. I see this occasionally in Gauntlet.
It's a Gauntlet card. It's actually a meta-dependent constructed card. There was a meta where this is really good, particularly against Vesture.
This is good late game situations for Swim. Instead of having that one card stuck in your hand to draw a card that you can't use because you have to kill your own improvement, you could just use this on a hero anytime you want. But obviously the piercing is much more situational.
I think this is not a draft card. I think this is actually very much a constructed card.
Really? Huh.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
So in drafts, you're not going to see as many of the counters for this. So first of all, I should say I think this card is constructed playable. Like I think this card is competitive.
I can agree with that.
Very underrated, huge sleeper. So a few reasons. In something like a control deck, you want cards for your red to be able to play that aren't just fighting for the early game. Axe is an extremely common choice. Whenever you and your opponent are both running Axe, and you guys are going to see this a lot. Whenever axes spawn against each other, you guys can confirm how common this is. But when your axe spawns into their axe, Spot Weakness will win that exchange. You basically just cycle it for 2 free damage, and it prevents you having to float mana, right? It does very well against Time of Triumph and Vesture, which are like 2 of the most meta cards. It just kind of, the stars are kind of aligning for this card to be a lot better than it looks.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I could definitely agree. Like I said, that's what I kind of called a meta-dependent card. Like I feel like that this meta has kind of gone away a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's kind of making a resurgence again recently.
All right. So
I mean,
on the verge of being playable, constructed, but for Gauntlet, it's just draw a card for the most part.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. That is it, my friends. Going back to the cams. Next time I'll remember to set this up beforehand.
It's all good. They just got to hear our lovely voices.
Yeah, no, they just got revealed like 30 minutes ago. You good?
True.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you, friends, for joining us. SUNSfan here with Conrad and Swim. Any last words, friends, before we say goodbye? Excellent. Thanks for joining us, as always. So artifaction.gg, we got some exciting stuff coming up that I can't quite talk about, but in the next few days you will find out about it. It's kind of what we've been working on for the past few months, and we're going to slowly start releasing features for the site. So look forward to that, friends. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening on the podcast. And thanks for joining us, Conrad and Swim. Appreciate it, friends.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, buddy.
That sounded very creepy. Thank you, everybody.
Also, we hope the reason why Slacks isn't here today is he is sick, and I do hope he gets better.
That's what he says, but I don't know if that's actually true. Let's be real.
Damn, dog. Jake is a national treasure, okay?
Before I just need to vent for a bit. Slash gets sick 4 to 5 times a year. For God's sake, get a flu shot. Jesus Christ. You know how often like people like us travel? Get a flu shot. I haven't been sick in like a year and a half because of that. Do you know how amazing it feels to go
Yeah, but
to
you
an
have to
event
think
and not
about,
get
like,
Ebola every time?
the situation's really difficult actually for like non-standard employees. Like you don't have, particularly in America, like healthcare is not readily available.
No,
I'm
okay.
sure he could afford it.
All right. So for the most part, I'm not going to call myself an expert in the U.S. I understand the healthcare system's garbage, but flu shots are typically free for people that have health insurance, which is required. And even if it's not, it's like $20. You're saying Slacks can't pay $20 to not get sick for an entire year.
I think you overestimate the ability of Slacks going to a place where he can get a flu shot.
I overestimate Slacks' ability to leave the house, is what you're really saying. Okay,
and that's coming from you.
That's true. That is actually a very
if you're
good
like that's the really specific thing. It's
That's
coming
true.
from you, who I know
You
does
know me
not
well.
like leaving the household.
That's right. Only for Chipotle. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, we'll bid everybody adieu. Goodbye.